We're I don't know. Are we still little, Lily? In Lily's mind,
we're huge, but I also have delusions of grandeur. So,
and then
it's an issue.
Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. You don't think, was that not good enough? Was that not deep enough? Should I go?
No,
here we are.
The right amount of like.
I feel like you were a bit embarrassed.
I was a little.
The right amount of you doing your voice, but also sounding somewhat normal.
Because we have like a famous guest who's professionally funny.
I think that's what it should sound like.
It's a little more awkward when there's someone who is like a professionally funny person.
You gotta own it. Just own it.
No, I feel like if you were normal, that's what our intro would sound like. But because you're not, you have to make it so buttery every week. So leave it like that, because that's what we should hope it would sound like.
Well, here we are. It's me and my sisters, Lily, in the Canary Islands. How you doing?
I'm good. Good.
That's good. Becky is in a rural Jewish summer camp, which is really like the homeland.
Our origin story.
It's our origin story. And Beck, I'm even wearing the T-shirt from camp. You can't see it, but I'm wearing the shirt.
I mean, there's no point on me telling you how I'm doing, because we need to do a mini episode on just this last week of my life teaching a film course to a bunch of 15-year-old Jewish kids in upstate New York in the Catskills.
And you've been sharing a room with our parents in the place where they met.
I'm across the hall.
Are they being like weirdly romantic and like ooh, those are the apple
Not
trees?
even a little bit. Dad is sleeping on a mat on the floor, and Mom's in a bed. Like, there's like some weird things going on.
Because when you go in the past, when I've gone with them at the camp, they're always like, ooh, let's look at the apple trees where we used to make out, and you're always like, ooh.
No, we've been here too long. We've passed that phase.
And we have an incredible guest here, Kandice Martellaro. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you? Also, good job on getting my name right. Nobody does.
Well, we take it seriously here at Friday Night Movie, and I've seen you say your name in your sketches. So
it's funny because in my head for the last couple weeks, I've been calling you Kandice Martellaro, like that was the meat, like the Italian meat. So
what do people call you? How do they get it wrong?
A lot of people say Martellaro, which is not that horribly wrong, but
I have a particularly mispronounced first name, so I know how you feel. Well, so we're going to get to Kandice, and who is a writer, an actor. Is comedian a fair word to use?
Yes.
Okay, a writer, actor, comedian, producer,
definitely
director.
A comedian.
Who I've been following for a while, and who has worked on some things that I'm a huge fan of that you've heard me talk about before on the show. But before that, I have a story for the family here, and there's a special, I guess, status you can have in our family where you are called the Fanya. And the Fanya, of course, is a reference to our amazing mother, who is a huge inspiration to everything that we do, and who also does hilarious things like leave her laptop on an international flight. The flight flies back and forth from whatever countries, and somehow still is able to retain her. She leaves it in
where like people stick a magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and she gets it back. She manages to get it back. She's left an entire suitcase on a street in New York, and somebody got it back to her.
So
unbelievable.
So last weekend, for the birthday of our dear friend Bobby Buttons, and folks might remember him from the post-Super Bowl episode. He's the ad executive guy who came and talked and broke down all the Super Bowl commercials. It was his 40th birthday, and his family and my family and Josh's family gathered in Woodstock, New York at Big Pink, which is an extremely famous house, because that is where Bob Dylan and the band holed up and recorded the Basement Tapes. And we're all huge fans of the band, and Bobby took us to our first Lee Von Helm shows and things like that, so we were really excited. It was like a nice family historical thing, and one of the great aspects of staying there is that you get a tour of the actual basement where they recorded the basement tapes. It's not open all the time, but a wonderful, amazing person. Her name is Julia Nichols, and people should follow her. She's Julia Nichols. She's Julia Nichols on Instagram, but the name of her band is like Naked, so you have to search like Julia Nichols Naked, which is a little bit awkward and funny.
Awkward.
But
yeah.
I will put her contact info because she's also an incredible musician and a sound engineer. So Julia Nichols comes to the house and gives us this tour of the basement, which is great. We get to see where Bob Dylan sat. We got to sit behind the drum set. It was awesome. We got to hear a lot about music and engineering and stuff in Woodstock, and I got so excited that we were all there together that I took my camera, and Lily, you're the one who made me get that little popper stopper thing or whatever it's called, the push and pop, what's the stand?
Pop socket.
The pop socket hand thing. So I tried to weigh my camera up and my phone and take like a group timed picture, but I couldn't get it to work on its own because the pop stop doesn't have the right angle. And I pulled my wallet out of my pocket and I laid my wallet down and I used it to balance my phone. And so we took the picture, we got the tour, we leave.
I all of a sudden know where this story's going.
Right. We leave the basement and Julia has to go and do sound for a concert. And then the next morning I'm leaving really early. And right as we're leaving the basement, I forget that I left a soda can in there. So I run back in and I grab the soda can. Phew.
And leave your wallet.
100%. But we don't realize until like 2 hours later that I had my wallet locked. And there's like security to get into this room. It's a famous historical place. And I locked my wallet inside the basement where they recorded the basement tapes. And the rest of the...
Safe.
What'd you say?
At least it's safe. No one's going to steal it.
That was my attitude, and you can pay for a lot of things on your phone. And and also, by the way, my friends were like, "Oh, well, I guess you're not getting that back because we got to leave early tomorrow, so you'll just have to come back and get it." No. So I furiously called and texted Julia, and then Ubered back from where we were hanging out at the time. I met her right at the exact moment, and we got back in. I got my wallet back. And we presented her with a blue orchid, which she just posted on Instagram, by the way, as a thank you for the tour and for coming back from her job to save my wallet.
So your story is that you annoyed someone enough with harassing text message that you finally broke them, forced them to leave their paying job to go get you your wallet
I was nice about
inside a room?
If you were the Fania, they would have had to track you down.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And begged you to take your expensive item back.
Okay, so I'm not the Fania, right? Mom would have been back home.
Not full Fania.
Them to ship it to you at someone else's house where you're going to be 3 days from now. Like
that's the way she rolls.
Okay.
But close.
That's fair. And you'd have to pick up a prescription somewhere in there.
Yeah, and the person sending your wallet would also be picking up your prescription. Exactly.
I think I've told this. I don't know if I've told this story, but I once had somebody call me, and they were at like a convention center, and they were like, I think I have your mom's phone. And I just was like, of course you do.
It's not even surprising anymore.
And what's your name, nice lady? And she's like, well, I'm the custodian who like cleans up at the end of at the conventions or whatever. And I just found this phone and I can't open it, but I can swipe last call. And you were the last person that she missed a call from. I'm like, of course she missed a call from me. She never answers her phone. She's always, and then.
It's actually really funny because we couldn't find my daughter's diaper bag, like 4 different things, the baby wipes, all this stuff. And I was like, Mom, where did you put this? Like, where did you leave it? She goes, why do you assume I left the bag somewhere? I'm like silent, and I don't even know how to answer. I'm like, what do you mean? Why do I assume you left the bag somewhere? Because that is your proven track record. Leaving bags.
Did you find it in the Camp Lost and Found? It was.
I actually can't remember where we found it.
Oh boy!
But it was someplace not obvious. But yeah, I was like.
Well. Yeah. Candice, thank you for enduring our little family catch-up.
No, I liked it.
Do you have a zany family?
I have an unusual situation, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay.
I'm an only child, and my parents were never married. They were just like platonic best friends.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So no zany banter with siblings, but that has its own weird eccentricities.
Cool. Well, you get to be a sibling with us for the next little bit, if that's okay.
Lovely. You all seem lovely.
So, Kandice, do we start chronologically? Okay, so let's start chronologically in terms of how I was introduced to your incredible work. A show that everyone...
So by chronologically, we're talking about Shy's chronology.
Yeah, my
personal
chronology. My personal chronology.
Okay.
Is that you wrote on a show that I've talked about a ton on this podcast, which is Stand Against Evil, which stars John C. McGinley and Janet Varney, and is created by the amazing Dana Gould, stars Deborah Bacon Jr. And not only that, you wrote, I would say, one of the most iconic episodes of the show. I mean, I would say like the Werepony and then Vampire Creek are probably the two most iconic episodes of that show as far as I'm concerned.
Really? That's really flattering. Thank you.
And and the one with the demon baby.
Yeah, but I think I saw the Demon Baby one. That's really funny. But I feel like Vampire Creek works so well. Not that it's universal. I don't mean it that. I just mean that like anyone who watched TV, like and who watches TV. I mean, so yeah, in that sense, the way you parody the teen show is so, it's like it works so, like it reads so well whether or not you watch I don't watch Stand Against Evil regularly. I watched a bunch of episodes, but it's not something I followed.
You can thank my sisters for the show not having a fourth season, despite me begging them.
So I'm sorry that in the midst
I had no way to watch it. There's no way to watch it here.
Yeah. I live in Spain too. I can't watch it either. No.
You live in California.
What I mean is that it was what was so great about that episode is that you could turn it on and it's hysterical. Like, I don't know the characters that well. I don't know all the shtick, but it's so funny because what you're making fun of and what in each of the role that each of the characters are playing in this little world of Vampire Creek, it was very familiar. And it was very, and I don't know.
So Kandice, set it up
playing
for
on
us.
things I understood.
Where'd you come up with the episode? How did it fit into how'd you get involved with such an interesting, off the beaten path show as Stan?
Well, okay, so there's kind of two answers to that question. I came to work on the show. I was hired as Dana Gould's assistant.
Oh.
And I actually still am his personal assistant, even still.
That's so cool. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's a great guy and so funny. But I was hired as his assistant. We worked together for a year. And then in that time, I told him that my favorite movie of all time is Coraline.
Oh, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I love that. It's my favorite movie of all time. But one day I listened to Dana's podcast, like for fun, because I'm a nerd, and he mentioned Coraline as a horror movie on his podcast, and I texted him and I was like, hey, you mentioned Coraline on your podcast, I'm so excited. And then he texted me back and was like, yeah, I was thinking we might do a Coraline themed episode next season. This was between seasons 2 and 3. Why don't you think of some story ideas?
Wow.
And it was very
Now, just as an aside, Becky worked as an assistant, right? Beck, you worked as an executive assistant on a big show. I'm pretty sure Becky, when she worked for a showrunner, no one ever asked her to throw in ideas for the show she worked on.
Well, that's the thing, is it was such a gracious offering. Like, he did not have to do that, and it was very, very appreciated, and he's definitely a great mentor. But yeah, so we did that, and then we started brainstorming ideas in the room for a Coraline themed episode, and basically the more we kind of got into it, the more the Coraline aspect wasn't really working. And so then we thought about it. He has teenage daughters. They love Vampire Diaries. And so we both started talking about Vampire Diaries, and we're like, oh, well, there's our episode. We'll just do Vampire Diaries. And so it's funny because I was coming from a CW Vampire Diaries perspective, but Dana kept coming from like a House of Dark Shadows perspective, which are two totally different vampire soap operas, but the two things married together really, really worked. And it was a really fun collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
It is, that makes sense, because it's definitely more soap opera than maybe a normal teen show.
Yeah.
Like, it takes it to with a mirror and the whole.
Now you also you got to write for, so you're the way, just for people who don't remember all the amount I've talked about Sin Against Evil, there's a town called Willard's Mill. Let's just say for to make it easy for everyone, it's haunted. The sheriff and the former sheriff fight mysterious, mystical things. And in this particular episode, one of the characters from the show, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, aka McLovin himself, is dead set on seducing Denise, the daughter of the sheriff, who is played by Deborah Baker Jr., who might be one of the funniest humans I've ever seen perform anything in my entire life. But you got to write for Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who for us, Superbad, and for me, Role Models. That's one of my favorite movies of recent years. The Kick-Ass.
Oh my God, he's so funny in that.
He's so funny. He's been around. Did you know you were writing for him when you wrote the episode, or did he come on later?
No, I had a rough idea that he might be in this episode. We had a list of potential guest stars. He happens to be really good friends with Deborah Baker Jr. in real life.
Oh, wow.
And so it had been hinted that he might be on that season, and then we were thinking if he happens to be on, this would probably be a good episode for him to be, because we knew it would be centered around Denise, Deborah's character. And it just seemed like it lent itself to him. So we wrote it with him.
One of the things I found so funny about this episode is that I'm watching it, and again, like I said, I watch the show, but I don't know every detail of every continuity bit. I'm watching it, I'm going, this woman in her 30s?
I thought it's a shy. I was like, why does she live with her dad? What's happening here?
I was like, what's she doing? But not that. But I was like, okay, he wants to take her to the vampire prom. Wait a minute, isn't she in her 30s? What is going on? And then I like that eventually. I think it's John C. McGinley that's like, she's 32 or something like that. And I was laughing so hard because it was exactly what I was thinking the whole time.
I also really like when they list her interests, when they can't find her, all the places that she's supposed to, she would be, but they can't find her because she's in the vampire world. Can you read them?
Kevin, played by Dana Gould, by the way. That's the showrunner, guys, who's her love interest.
He's fantastic.
First of all, he always reintroduces himself as the guy who digs graves down the cemetery, even though everyone knows.
He's like, I just want to dig a pool one day.
and he mentions some of the places that he went looking for Denise when she went missing, living into the Vampire Creek. And he says the abandoned car wash, the big pile of wigs, the false teeth museum, the funeral home that's only for circus people, the building the building with no windows where they just make old people sew, and then the homeless guy who has a house and just won't go in. That's some of them. In rewatching this episode, I was dying laughing. So those are all your words, correct?
No, actually.
Oh.
I mean, I wrote the episode, but that was mostly the director of the show, Rob Cohen, is Dana Gould's best friend. Majority of that was the two of them just riffing and coming up with ideas.
Oh my God,
that's great.
It's so funny.
That's just pretty cool too. That's pretty awesome too. I'm gonna ask you one more little Stan thing. So another thing that people probably get tired of hearing on this podcast is that probably one of the humans I think is most talented in the world is Janet Varney. Her voice work on Cora and Stand Against Evil. I actually was watching both shows simultaneously and did not realize it was her. And then when I realized it was her, I was like, oh my God. And then I took my family eventually to meet her at AwesomeCon in DC, and she was so gracious, and she'll even she's such a good person to fans that she'll keep in touch with us a little bit. Can you just tell me a little bit about how awesome she is and what it's like working with her? Because I think she's just one of the most talented humans around, and nice.
No,
so nice.
Absolutely. No, she's one of the sweetest people. One thing that stood out to me when I very first met her is she made a point of learning every single crew member's name on the set. And throughout the day would go and say like, hi, Mike, how you doing? And stuff like that to each individual person. And it's like a small little thing that doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you're on the crew for a show and, it's busy, you don't always get acknowledged. And something like that goes a really long way. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, she's legit. I really like her.
That's cool. And she curates Sketchfest in San Francisco. Becky lives in Berkeley most of the time, so I'm hoping to come visit it once. But you got to perform at Sketchfest, correct?
I did, yeah. This last year, it was a lot of fun.
Did you perform as yourself, as part of Femmebot PhD? This is my smooth segue into Femmebot PhD.
Femmebot PhD performs.
Okay, cool.
We were accepted as a team into the festival.
That is awesome. Okay, Femmebot PhD. An amazing, hilarious comedy troupe. Everyone go on YouTube right now and subscribe. I've been following for a while, but to prep for this episode, we immersed ourselves in your sketches. So tell us a little bit how you got involved. What is it? Give us the pitch, but then we're going to go deep on the sketches because we all have questions.
Sure. So Fembot was formed at, it's technically an indie sketch team. So a group of girls came together and formed the team. But they perform regularly at a theater called the Pack Theater in Los Angeles. And it's a little alternative comedy black box theater. And every month we have a different guest on the show. And one month they asked me to be the guest, and then I had a great time, and like a month later they asked if I wanted to join the team permanently, and I did, and it's been one of the best decisions I ever made. It's the thing I look forward to. I know, it's just so nice. It's honestly doing comedy. I've been doing comedy for 8 years now, and it's honestly hard to find people that get your exact same sense of humor and relate to you in a specific way. And I felt really lucky that I came across a group of 5 other women that relate in the same way I do, and it's just like the thing I look forward to, and we work really well together.
So I'm gonna rattle off some of their names just because I feel like we should make sure to talk about them because they're awesome.
Please.
So and also, if I don't pronounce some of these right, apologies, folks.
I can also do it if it's easier.
Andra Moldov, Jessica Amal, Kate Rappaport, Nikki Urban, Julia Bartlett, and of course Kandice Martellaro.
Yes.
And do you all write together, or do you each write a sketch and bring it to the team? How does that work?
We each write a sketch. So what we do is we have an hour-long show we do every month. We actually have one coming up tomorrow. But at the start of the month, we meet every Wednesday. We have a pitch meeting where we just pitch ideas, and then sort of whatever sticks, whatever works, we go home individually and write our individual ideas into a sketch, and then we do 2 more rounds of notes on our written sketches, and then we actually start blocking them out and rehearsing them, and then we put them up on their feed at the show.
Wow, so you're like a Saturday Night Live, like you have that pace where you're just writing fresh stuff every time?
Yeah, it's all new material every show, and we've never missed a show.
Oh.
That's awesome, and I've watched you put a lot of live bits online, right? Those are. I mean, is it every show is online, or most of your shows are up online?
Every show should be online, and in addition to that, we try to produce at least 1, if not 2 videos per month, in addition to our live sketches. So sketches that do really well on stage, we'll go shoot a video version of.
Then the production value of your videos is really good. You guys have a really good production. Like, they don't look like they look like they're really nice.
We have a really great DP named Mike Morey that does a lot of our videos.
You shoot, like, they look like they are properly shot by someone who really does know what they're doing. Like, and I think that makes honestly, for me, it makes such a difference.
And you should feel good about this because of the 3 siblings, Becky's the one with both talent and qualifications in this area, whereas whatever Lily and I tell you is just 2 regular people giving opinions.
It's just connoisseurs.
All good.
No, but the sound quality is really good. They're lit.
I produced a short film once.
They're edited properly.
I know something.
What do you mean you produced a short film? That one with Amanda's boyfriend playing hockey?
That's mine.
No.
That was my first movie in film school.
For Miriam Raffles Production Company.
You mean when you made the 21st birthday video for me where you went around the city of Montreal interviewing everyone from my friends to like the random dry cleaners?
Yeah. That was a lot of fun, but no.
None of these as good as Candice's. Okay, so
Sidebar. The point being, that was the first thing that really struck me is that, like, okay, there's actual production value in it, which tells you something about the seriousness of the group of people behind it. Because you can have a really great, funny bit, but I always find that if it's not shot well, then that means there's just a certain like lack of effort in there. And I really appreciate that clearly you guys are thinking beyond like, oh, what's just sounds funny, but how do you make it look good, and how do you make it visually appealing to people who are watching it, and raise the bar. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I will tell the team you said so.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of these sketches. Okay, so the one that I feel like it felt like it was made for our family, and you directed it, which makes it even cooler, is pooping in public.
Well,
I actually didn't direct that.
No, you didn't?
No, I edited it though.
Oh, you edited it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's okay.
I knew.
It's a very good edit.
I know the credit. I saw it in the credits.
it is really good editing.
The edit on that is very
Just so
important.
you know, on the YouTube page, it does say directed by Kandice Martellaro.
Oh, does it? I mean, I was going to direct it, and I did a lot of the prep work to direct it, but it ended up being directed by Mike Morey, and kind of just the team as a whole.
Okay, cool. Well, just so people know, you should go.
Well, you were heavily involved in production and the creative vision.
It's like a Charlie Chaplin silent film of somebody trying to poop in a public bathroom.
But I feel like that it needs to be silent in order for it to be
Funny.
like,
For it to
funny,
work.
to level up the funny, because we've all heard bathroom jokes before, but the style in which you did it made it like uniquely funny.
So how'd you come up with that?
I didn't. That was Nikki Urban wrote that. And they'd actually already performed it like 2 or 3 times before I joined the team.
Oh, wow.
And,
Like live?
Yes, live. There's a live.
Really?
You can actually see it on our YouTube channel. And that's actually the thing. She had been talking about wanting to shoot it, and then I wanted to get my little claws into it because I loved it, the live one.
Oh.
And so we texted back and forth about it, and I was like, please let me direct this. And then I flaked out the night before. But but yeah, it's such a brilliant sketch. It was so smart. Nikki comes up with the most gross stuff, but somehow the most geniusly gross stuff. Yeah.
Now, were you involved in the brunch one that I'm very obsessed with?
We're not done
now
with
I'm
the
doubting the
poop one.
credits on the YouTube page, because I'm pretty sure the brunch one you were also involved in.
Yeah, that one I did direct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Then can we please talk about that? Because
Well, we're done with the poop one?
Ugh, fine, go back to the one. Go.
I feel like that's the pièce de résistance, so
For
it
you?
deserves more attention.
Well,
go.
I honestly, Lily, of the 3 of us, the person who I imagined most in our family in that was Lily.
Well, I can't go, not at home, so it was very personal to me.
Yeah.
It was actually like a documentary.
In
for Lily. It
university,
wasn't
I
a
would
comedy.
go home to my parents' house to go to the bathroom. I can't, I need to go at home.
Yeah, in
and
privacy.
so the whole thing, I just need to ask, how did you guys get that music?
Oh, we just stole it offline.
Because
But
it's a great choice. It's just perfect.
I agree. I wish I'd been there when they wrote it so I could tell you, but I agree. I saw it when it was live. and it
That was
just
fantastic.
Italian chef kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is whether you only like to poop at home or you are.
You don't have to answer, Candace. Lily's not posing these as questions, even though
I
they
just mean
sound
rhetorically,
Okay.
whether you're a poop at homer or you're someone who frequently poops in a public bathroom. A lot of people poop at work, I hear. And so I think you can relate to this sketch on just so many levels. Like if you're someone who does poop a lot at your house.
Especially if you're someone who plays poop chicken, you know.
Right.
Because those 2 ladies are playing poop chicken, and it's amazing. That's like,
They're trying to see who's
Can
gonna
you
clean
elaborate
first.
what you are describing here?
chicken is when you enter the bathroom to poop, and there is someone in the stall next to you, and you will wait them out until they leave going, oh, you think you have to poop? Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea how long I can sit here and hold it. You will be forced out of this bathroom without pooping, so I can go. That is poop chicken. It's a real thing.
Nah.
It is a real
thing.
All right, brunch. Let's talk about brunch, Beck.
Brunch, okay.
Ask
From
a
cooking
question.
to brunch.
As the mother of a young child, where my listen, my friends love my baby. They're my closest girlfriends. This is not actually how I imagine them to behave, but of my group of friends, I don't have that many friends with young kids. And so in my mind, I always do sort of imagine that once like the baby leaves the party, everyone's having a lot more fun. And so what was so deeply hysterical to me about this sketch is it's exactly that. It's a bunch of ladies having brunch, having the best time, getting drunk. And then every time this like fourth friend with a baby sort of like pops in with her baby, they are like, they just the dread of what they're experiencing taking care of the baby, and then how bananas they go when she leaves with the baby, like drinking and doing drugs and like going crazy, but then at the same time feeling like viscerally protective of this child. And it was like all the range of emotions I think as a mother I imagine people going through.
I love how every time the mom comes back in, she's very oblivious to how much she doesn't fit in with the baby. And my favorite thing is when she first shows up and they're like, oh, just put that loaf of bread down or whatever. And she's like, oh, no, I had a kid. And they're like, what? And she's like, remember you guys came to the shower, the baby shower? And they're like, oh. And so, I've experienced that disconnect, and I think it's hilarious.
So where does a sketch like that come from? And then as a director, how do you put it all together?
That was written by Julia Bartlett, who plays the mom in that sketch. Okay. She wrote that. And it's funny because I don't think this is intentional, but she has multiple sketches about like not wanting to be around a baby. I just like it just hit me.
Therapeutic for her.
Well, it's funny. She doesn't have a baby, and I don't think she has that many friends with babies. But like, it's just a funny thing. She actually wrote another sketch I really love called "I Don't Want to Hold This Baby." And it's I can't think of the song off the top of my head, but it's a song parody, and the whole thing is a girl at a party that gets handed a baby that she now has to hold, and she doesn't want to, and the whole song is just her like inner thought process of like, where can I put this baby down? I don't want to hold this baby. I just want to chug a beer, and
that's how here's the, as a mom, that's how I think other people feel when they're with my kid. Which is that I always imagine that like they're just like smiling and being nice, but no one really wants to be taking care of my kid. Dad, like, I love her, but
as a dad, I don't think too hard about it.
You're like, oh,
of course you do, because somebody else is always holding your baby. That's why. That person's the mom.
I have so many friends with kids, and I've never thought that or had it be an issue. But
okay, well, that's comforting.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know were you involved at all with the Russian sketches?
No, but I can give you a really interesting backstory of how those came to be.
So
Becky's gonna need that backstory
because Becky basically goes on vacation with Olga. Becky goes on vacation with Olga and Ludmila in her real life.
My in-laws are Russian, and I'm not saying they say the things that are said in the sketch, but I would say they say things that are adjacent. They're not. They're adjacent to what is said in the sketch. Where I needed to be communicated to those women that wrote that sketch that it was so realistic that I was crying laughing while watching it, because these are versions of conversations I have had with my in-laws. It's beyond.
Wait, the summer death thing, Becky, I feel like that's something your mother-in-law would say, right?
I've had versions of that about how, like the reason I know the word shapochka in Russian for hat is because she chases us around all seasons of the year, all times of day, trying to force us to wear hats because we will die of a cold if we don't wear a hat, because we will catch a cold in our head and die. Like, these are real conversations I have had.
Okay, so here's the backstory of how Olga and Ludmila came to be a thing. They are played by Andra Moldoff and Kate Rappaport, and they both happen to be first-generation immigrants from Eastern Europe. Kate is Polish. She's from Poland and moved here when she was about 9. And then Andra is Romanian and also moved here when she was about 9, just coincidentally. And so we just happened to have these two first-generation immigrants on the team. And so if you talk to them, you'd never know. Like, they don't have that accent normally, but they can both slip into it. And
I was going to say their accents were
so
fantastic.
it's exactly like my husband who like left Russia when he was 7. And so,
yeah.
Very.
It's like the same kind of region, so they both can just, and it's also, their parents and stuff have those accents, so they just can slip into it really easy. And so we did, Upright Citizens Brigade does a thing called a Spank show, and it's basically a chance to get a run of a show at UCB.
Cool.
And we did a show called How to Love Your Dictator. We also did it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, but that was before I joined the team. That was called How to Love Your Dictator, and the whole point was supposed to be these 2 Russian women teaching you how to be okay with having a dictator as a president.
God, oh my God, that is so funny.
Yeah, and that's where Olga and Ludmila came from. So that's the angle of their, it's a weekly web series they do, and that's the
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it. There's little details in it that I don't know if other people catch, but it's like, I forget what she was saying, but she should have used the word excited, like, it's time for vacation. We so excite. Like that. The fact that you said excite instead of excited, I like that.
It was clear that, I feel like it was quite clear that they must have extreme experience with
just the little like
the
language
community
nuances and the both the paranoia about things, but also just acceptance of horrible things that can happen. Like being deeply paranoid.
Have fun, but not too much fun.
Yeah, like things like that. Yeah. Like if you have too much fun, you'll come back to your life that you're already depressed in and be more depressed. Like, again, not something my mother-in-law has said, but not far off.
So funny.
So there's a couple other sketches as a guy I find hilarious, but they definitely, I would say, I feel like they're a good, is feminist the right word? I don't want to be like presumptuous, but I would say they have like a really good feminist edge, and there's a couple that I find particularly hilarious. The fidget spinner for your vagina, Puss Be Gone, which is instant male privilege with Puss Be Gone, and then Rashy Lingerie. All 3 of those
Rashy Lingerie,
that's my
amazing.
favorite.
The best is the ending of Rashy Lingerie, where it just shows like those hilarious photos of like lead designer, founder of the company, and it's these like 2 mustachioed men, like amazing.
So being a female comedy group with, I guess, give us a little bit on that, on either what it's like being a female only. I assume you're always female only in terms of or maybe you're not, because I feel like there's a guy that appears on a regular basis.
Oh, we've had many guy guests, and actually Femmbot did not set out to be an all-female team. It just happened to become a female team. In fact, one of those mustached guys in that video, Danny Emerald, used to be a member of Femmebot PhD at one point. That's before I was on the team, but no, we always say we are more of a Lucille Ball than an Amy Schumer, in the sense
interesting.
of like we have feminist sketches, but it's not like we have a feminist agenda necessarily. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I love Amy Schumer, but our thing is more like our agenda is to be funny.
Got it.
But yeah, so we like happen to be an all-female team, and we all are feminists, so inevitably we have feminist sketches.
That's awesome. Thank you for explaining that and the nuance there. We're a huge Lucy family in my family. I watch it with my kids all the time, and so here's a question: who is like who right now do you look out there that is like a Lucy of our time?
Ooh, that's a good
I, in my mind, have someone that I talk about like on a regular basis that I think is like a Lucy, but who is a Lucy?
Sorry, I disconnected for a minute.
We're talking about Lucille Ball.
Like I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Who do we feel like the Lucy?
Because Kandice was saying she's kind of an inspiration for Fembot. So
got it.
Do you look around these days and say, oh, so-and-so is kind of like a modern-day Lucy?
Oh, man.
Or has an element of Lucy, because she's the only Lucy, right? There's only one.
I would say I know mine, but...
When you say has an element of Lucy, do you mean just like a great female comedian that you find them so inspiring
so
and
for
different?
me,
or like
there's an aspect, I think, of her comedy that's inherently physical that I don't think
who's yours, Lil? I have one.
I would say not like a complete Lucy, but it has Lucy-esque aspects as Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, that's great.
That's
For
a good
me, so mine, also a Bridesmaids alum, although I'm referring to her in a different case, is Wendy McClendon-Covey, who plays Beverly Goldberg on the Goldbergs. Like, for me, the way her physical comedy and her...
Right, because I think you have to bring a physicality.
And the way she carries that show, to me, reminds me a lot, and having watched a lot of Lucy recently, like, there are moments for me where I'm like, oh man, Wendy's in, like, Lucy world right now, in terms of her performance and the way the kind of show moves around her as an actor. Beck, do you have one?
Well, the first person that came to mind, but it's hard because she's not like on TV right now. But the first person that came to mind was Kristen Wiig, when you talked about like someone who was just, I felt to me like breaking the mold a little bit. Maybe this was like 10 years ago on SNL. I don't know. Had like a great physicality to her. Was really eccentric. Like that's what I thought of. But we don't. I feel like I don't see her.
I think it's wild that it's a really interesting coincidence that all three of those women are in Bridesmaids. That's wild.
I don't think it's a coincidence. Like that's the most excellent cast of a staff of a comedy film.
But I'm interested in Candice's answer.
This is very mainstream, but I would maybe say Mindy Kaling.
Oh, cool!
Sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it can be mainstream. We're believe me, we're very mainstream. We're not super.
I mean, I guess Melissa McCarthy's also mainstream, but no, I would probably say Mindy Kaling. Not so much because her physicality and stuff reminds me of Lucille Ball, but more the show, The Mindy Project. Mm-hmm. I think elements of it I could see being I Love Lucy-esque. Not all of it.
The like self-deprecating, but the inevitable confidence that she has, like that whole shtick worked into it is.
I could see that. And had they gone a different route and like had things worked out between her and Danny Castellano, I'm like, he would have been Ricky. Like,
he would have been. Yeah, I stopped watching when it switched to Hulu, and then never got it back. So in my mind, her and Danny stayed together.
Okay, well we'll go with that. And I've spoiled it now for anyone that wanted to watch the Mindy Project who hasn't.
Those are all great. Those are all great choices. Okay, let's talk about other things that you love, Candice. Yeah. So when in our prep, in our research for the show, we asked you, or I asked you a little bit, because let's be honest, how much do my sisters ever do in terms of research and prep?
There's a little LK next to all the things.
I'm just messing with you.
Sent me, I watched, I reviewed.
No, you did.
I read.
Candice, you should be, by the way, very honored.
Excuse me?
Like Becky never
when it's just me hosting the show and we don't have a guest.
I prep when it's a stranger. I prep when it's someone I haven't met before. Thank you very much. I don't want to be rude.
Honestly, I am so impressed by all of your prep work. I'm surprised that you guys watch that many Fembot sketches. Like, it's very, very humbling.
Oh, wow.
Everybody should watch
Fembot.
I mean, my regular rotation.
And
Can I just say one more thing? I also appreciate, and this is we've always talked about on this podcast that time is of the essence. And one of the major issues I have with SNL sketches is they're just too long.
Right.
And I love that, like, the joke is, like, just, they jump the shark every time. I mean, almost every time. And they get so drawn out. I love the timing of the composition of the sketches of the Fembot. Like some is a minute and a half, some are 3 minutes, but it's not like 10, 15 minutes of the same joke.
Raunchy Lingerie is about like a minute or so, or just under a minute. So it is
perfect.
The correct amount of time for that joke. That worked for me for exactly that much, because I needed to get to the punchline of those pictures of the guys, and it was so good.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question about Raunchy Lingerie, and if this comes off as terrible or creepy, we will edit this out. But so how about this? Okay.
What could you possibly be asking?
No, I'm going to say you're all very good-looking humans. You're very pretty humans, right? Like I
feel like in the Me Too era, if that's the beginning of your sentence, you should not continue speaking.
No, I need to know what he's going to say now.
No,
how paranoid is our brother?
How paranoid? No, I was saying, like, you're all very, like, pretty people. You're very funny, and but like everyone has, in a sketch like Rashy Lingerie, you are using your bodies, and that cannot be, even as pretty as you all are, like that cannot be always an easy thing to do, where you're wearing like scanty clad clothes to make a really funny joke. Like I would like, I don't take my shirt off like anywhere. Like, what's that experience like? How is that as women? You're using your sexuality, but you're also making it funny. How does that feel? What's it like?
Well, it's funny you say that. We've done a lot of sketches on stage that have a lot of nudity. It's usually Nikki Urban who wrote the Pooping in Public sketch. Okay. Usually she'll be
I like where her mind is at.
Yeah, she, like I said, she writes the best, most disgusting, but hilariously genius things you could think of. But usually she'll be the go-to. One of my favorite sketches we did live is this one where she's on stage in a dog bed with a blanket over her and a dog mask. And there's a couple sitting there, and she's acting like a dog having a bad dream. And the couple that's looking at the dog is like, oh, I wonder what cute little dog dream she's having. And then it flashes over to what the dog's dreaming. And she stands up, and she's completely naked in real life, except for this.
Oh my God.
Yeah, in real life, except for this dog mask. And we all come in with cat masks on, and we're all dressed as cats, pointing at her and laughing. And then she feels up her whole body, gets to her neck, and goes, oh, I forgot my collar.
That's amazing.
That is a ballsy.
That's ballsy. Yeah.
So I guess in answer to your question, it'd be I don't necessarily know, but Nikki sure is good at that.
Okay. Was it a bad question? Should I not have asked that? Did it come off?
No, I think it's a great question.
Yeah,
It's a really good question.
Right.
No, it is, and we do. Fembot as a team does incorporate a lot of elements of female sexuality as that's part of who we are. And so yeah, we do use our bodies and our physicality quite a bit. And Rashy Lingerie I think was a good example of one where it was, if it suits the joke, we'll go for it. And it's weird. There's not really. At that point, it doesn't feel that uncomfortable because you're just doing it for the joke and you're not really thinking about the fact that you're slutting around in lingerie. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for answering the question. I really appreciate it. I hope I made it as unawkward as possible.
And you shouldn't cut it. I think it was a good question.
Oh, thank you. All right. Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about things that you like, because when I said, hey, what are you into? I always like to ask our guests what they're into because we want to talk about things that are fun for them, as if you were, over at our house for dinner. And the list of some of your favorite things includes, it's not the only things, but I thought a great thread, there's some great threads here. You mentioned Jaws, which by the way I agree is one of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah. Definitely one of the coolest, best written movies. I love the dialogue in that movie. Coraline, masterpiece. E.T., we'll get to E.T. in a second.
Try 100% hates that movie.
Snow White, and It, the recent version of It, which Lily thinks is like a comedy, right?
No, my husband does.
I have not seen that.
He thought it was horror comedy.
So all of these things, to me, are all things that scare children. Because like when I was little, I saw Jaws 3, but I saw Jaws on television. I was 4. My fears of the water and sharks.
I wouldn't go in the bathtub. I wouldn't fill the bathtub at home and sit in it after watching Jaws as a kid. I was so scared.
That movie did that to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Coraline, of course, which, I mean, there's so much to be afraid of in Coraline. Brilliant. E.T. Oh, my God. E.T. There are lots of movies I would watch before ever watching that again. My kids are asking me about it recently. I make my kids watch a lot of movies that they don't want to see, and then they end up liking most of them. They said Goonies, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. I took my daughter at 4 to see Force Awakens, and they were asking me about E.T., and I was like, you don't have to see that one. And that, of course, made them want to see it. They're like, well, what about it, Dad? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, if you say it's bad, now we want to know. Yeah. What's so bad about it?
Yeah, exactly. And then Snow White, I mean, it's a masterpiece, but it's terrifying. That's it. And then Snow White, of course, is also pretty scary. So we have a game that we play. That's our signature game on Friday Night Movie, and it is called Buy, Rent, or Meh. And I'm going to throw 3 things out, and you have to assign a value to each one of them. Buy, like you'd put it in your iTunes library. This is metaphorically speaking. Rent, you'd stream it, it's all right, and then meh. Now, the meh can have a lot of different qualities to it based on how you say it. So it can be a dismissive meh. It can be more kind of like, it's all right.
Or it could also just be the third, like you're forced to choose a third, and you just have to meh something, even though you love it.
And then in some cases, you can pull out the wild card of a bleh, which is like,
you really don't like it.
You really don't like it.
Oh, gotcha.
So we're going to play a little buy, rent, or meh with some of your favorite things. And pretty much everything you described to us has a child-devouring villain in it. So I'm going to throw 3 child-devouring villains from your favorite things up. And you're going to have to buy, rent, or meh this group. So 1, Bruce, the famous shark from Jaws, which is the model, the fake shark. Yeah, it is. I don't know which one of my sisters wrote. Is that the shark's name?
I had no idea that was the shark's name.
Called Bruce?
And
the actual animatronic shark was the name Bruce.
The animatronic shark is Bruce. In the movie, they don't call it Bruce. Oh, I get it. That's funny because in Finding Nemo, the shark's name is Bruce.
Yes. And I believe Stand Against Evil, when they fight the Baphomet, I think it's in the first episode, they do an amazing Jaws reference. That was the moment I was hooked on the show. I was like, yep, this show is for me.
Yeah, me too.
So Bruce the shark, Terry Hatcher, the spider lady from Coraline, the mother, who is trying to sew buttons on kids' eyes and eat their souls.
Yes.
And Pennywise.
Or Tim Curry.
But you haven't seen the original Tim Curry one. You're talking about Skarsgård Pennywise, right?
Oh, right. I guess, you're talking about, what's his name?
I was, but, yeah.
So, buy, rent,
the third
or meh,
Skarsgård.
these three child-devouring villains. Because Bruce the Shark does eat a kid in the movie.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, you have to buy Jaws. Like, that's just a given. So I guess I'd rent Coraline. And then, not that I actually think necessarily this is what this is, but I guess I'd go meh with Pennywise.
Why are you mehing Pennywise?
I mean, realistically, I rented the movie, so I would say rent, but if it has to go in the meh category, that's the one out of all 3 that I would put in the meh category.
Okay, I guess those.
I think it's a very accurate buy, rent, meh. I concur with that decision.
Okay, well, I'm gonna disagree.
Okay, go for it.
Because I'm thinking specifically about the villain, and I have to think about simply for a villain based buy, rent, meh. I'm going to have to, and this is difficult for me because I am so terrified of it, I've never seen the movie. I'm going to have to buy Pennywise because it is so scary I cannot bring myself to watch it. Then I'm going to have to rent Coraline because it's a reasonable amount of terrifying that I can handle because it's animated, so I can at least separate it a little bit. And I'm going to meh the animatronic shark because, compared to Pennywise and terrifying Terry Hatcher button hands, it seems like a reasonable villain risk I could handle in my life. So that one gets mad.
So I'm going to take a similar approach because so you and I approached this similarly. I definitely buy, rent, or meh these based on how dangerous I think each one of these is to me.
Okay.
And while Bruce is dangerous, if you don't go in the water or go to the beach, which you know how I feel about the beach, he can't get you. He's not a land shark. He's not.
Shy likes the beach if there's no sand, ocean, or sun.
Yeah. I like the boardwalk with the video games. And
shade.
So I'm going to meh the shark, not because it isn't a masterpiece, but because I think I could probably avoid it. I'm going to rent Pennywise because it seems that Pennywise's actions of evil are specified to the area of Derry, which is this one of the many cursed towns in Stephen King's world. So if I steer clear of New England, which is fine, we're good. And then last but not least, that spider, that child-eating spider who woos you into her world and sews buttons on your head. That's a real scary concept to me because I love our mom. The idea of mom being evil is terrifying to me. So that's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Lily agreed with Candice. Okay, we're gonna. Yeah. Candice, are you ready for another round of buy, rent, or meh?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now imagine You're one of the many people in these movies who has to consume something, eat something, right? Whether it's a villain or a person. And so I'm going to throw 3 items that are eaten in one of these movies at you. Again, I'm taking a little bit of a horror comedy edge. You've got the credentials. So number 1, the poison apple in Snow White. The chum that they throw in the water at the end of Jaws when they're going after the shark, and they're pouring it in. And then the little brother who gets eaten at the beginning of It. All right? Buy, rent, or mid, those 3.
I would... Okay, this is the most shallow reasoning. I would buy the apple, the poison apple, because... Really it just gave... Yeah, because realistically, it just gave her the ability to take a really long nap and then wake up perfect and without morning breath. So it seems like a good option to me. And then I would rent the chum because it's gross, but I can deal. I'd meh the boy because ew. I took a different approach. I know it's supposed to be which one you would actually eat, but
no, I think I like that. I like that technique.
And considering, I was kind of wondering you were going to go with this because you did direct a sketch that involves people like not liking a baby. So I was kind of curious if you were going to go with eating the little kid.
I'd be excited about the guy eating Pennywise eating the kid.
All right, Lil, what about you?
I'm going to buy Pennywise.
I do.
What did you say? Sorry, Candice, I missed you there for a second.
I was going to say, I do work part-time as a nanny, so I don't want a kid to get...
Okay, you probably wanted to get that in there. No, do not approve of eating children. Gotcha. I'm going to go with that one first, though, because in the first time I saw the original It, and then when I saw the remake, to me, that scene, even though I didn't think the movie was scary, but that scene, when that boat is going down that street and what's going to happen, it just irks me so bad. Like, I'm just not a fan of that. Like, that, I think that scene's a great scene because it sticks with you. So that is definitely, in terms of like villainous meals, I'm going to buy that one because that's the scariest. I think I would rent the chum because I'm like, you bringing it upon yourselves, whatever happens after you throw that into the ocean. And it's also kind of gross. And I'm going to meh the apple because who would take a bite of something with like that gross witch, like handing you that with her nails? Like who would ever, I don't even like to take bites of apples that I cut from my own fridge. I have to like wash them. Sometimes I peel them. I'm like very particular. Like that apple looks nasty. No.
Agreed. Yes.
All right, Beck, what about you?
I'm gonna concur with Candice. I really liked her reasoning. I felt like it was unexpected, and I'm just gonna go ahead and agree with her choices. Not to be unoriginal, but I support you.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna go chum apple kid. And mostly because, I don't know, chum always, like, I get a little bit kind of hungry when I see it in that movie. It just looks like it could be a little bit yummy. I don't know. I don't know why.
Fascinating. We learn something new every week when we record.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who will not
want to learn, but we learn them.
A guy who will not eat a banana or like be in the presence of a banana. But I'm like, chum looks yummy.
I feel like eating a little bit of fish sticks or something.
Yeah, I mean, is it fish? Is it beef? Who knows?
No, it's bad. Don't eat it.
It's beef-fish mix. All right, now another game that we play on the show, and this is called Pitch Imperfect. There's a few variations of it, but the version we're going to play is where you pitch your version of a particular show or movie or a sequel, and this is between one of these things that we've talked about, these disparate things, a crossover or shared universe. Which two, or more, but let's say two, would you tie these together? Lily, I know you've been preparing for this, so I'm going to give you the mic first.
I just like a quick 2 seconds, Candice. Can you just sum up for me in one line why you like Snow White?
Oh, I was just, as a little kid, it was my favorite go-to that I watched with my grandma. It's not even anything other than that. Oh,
it's more nostalgia?
Yeah, it's nostalgia, and I also love the fact that the more I learned about it, that was one of the early places where doing joke punch-ups on scripts started. They had a thing where they would
you'd have a really good answer.
They would give 5 cents to anybody that could add a joke to the script that worked.
It's like $1,000 today.
Yeah. But they, or it might have been $5. I can't remember if it was 5 cents or $5. Anyway, but there's one guy that worked on the movie, and I can't remember his name in particular, that came up with the gag where the dwarves all stick their little noses over the beds one by one, and he got $5 for that gag and talks about it on the DVD specials on the Snow White.
That's really cool. I bet he goes on a lot of podcasts to talk about it now.
I think he might be dead now.
That movie's very old.
This got dark fast.
I mean, just realistically.
That's amazing.
Yeah, realistically,
we're big animation fans on the show. Becky's husband worked for Pixar for many years, and so what I would have immediately thought is, oh, you loved Coraline, so you like animated movies, and it's the first one, the first animated feature. But this is a very cool. I feel like we learned something. You know, Friday Night Movie listeners, you learned something today.
So basically, I want to see Snow White as like a Tomb Raider type character, where she doesn't need anybody's help, least of all the prince. I guess you could have the dwarves along as like a sidekick kind of thing, but I want them to be more autonomous, like maybe the crew on the ship, and they're not like they're helpful, and I guess they could all have like their identities, but let's elevate it. And she's going after Jaws. That is the crossover. That is the only crossover of those movies. I'm forgetting that we even mentioned E.T. in this.
Oh no, my crossover is with E.T. So first of all, it
scares the living shit out of me.
E.T. is with an E and a T, so they're already visually like you could do something really cool with those two words. But also, if you've seen the original this is spoiler alert for a very, very long TV movie from the 80s, 90s. I don't remember when it came out, but it scared the life out of me. At the end of it, the original one that I saw, the big reveal after this amazingly terrifying film is that it's a giant spider alien. Right? Like everything you've been dealing with, this whole changing and getting in people's heads and psychological thriller, it's a spider alien.
Had they just left it as Tim Curry, it would have been way scarier.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I would really like to see the ETs in Homeworld, ET Homeworld, have to face off and prevent the arrival, right? So like they're worried about what's his name, Elliot, right? So Elliot's back in the 80s. You know, they get some of the Stranger Things kids to play him now, or you get the actor, is it Henry Thomas? You get him to play the dad, and again bring in the Stranger Things kids, and E.T. gets word that the spider alien's coming back, and he has to go on a mission with some other E.T.s to intercept him. And then there's like a big showdown on Earth, and there's little glowing fingers and chocolate.
They move so slow.
Well, that's it. Like they got some telekinesis. So
I guess.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So
I like it.
I'm going for a sci-fi. I'm going for a sci-fi space opera kind of thing, where the ETs are really we get into the command structure of the ET ships, for example.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, good. Candice approves. That's good. Becky, or Candice, either one of you.
Okay, so we can do any kind of crossover between all the films we've talked about.
Yeah.
For a sequel? Is that I lost my connection
or a shared
for a minute.
universe or
sure? Okay, so I want to see a Sharknado sequel where the shark.
Wait, Sharknado's not in this. You're just adding another show.
No, Sharknado-esque. Like, can you let me finish my sentence? Oh my god, a Sharknado-esque sequel where the shark from Jaws is now like through some supernatural event, maybe as it arrives on planet Earth or whatever, is like transported into the sewer system of this town and is living in the sewer system, and it's just
So instead of
like,
it being a tornado, Jaws is in the sewer system.
So it has nothing to do with Sharknado. It's just Jaws is in the sewer system, like in it.
I'm just saying, but like, okay, in the idea that like,
great,
it's absurd that a shark could be in a tornado.
Ocean sharks can now live in other places. Okay, maybe he swims into a storm.
Have you seen Jaws 4? That shark followed the family all the way to Bermuda, or the Bahamas.
Very personal. And now he's in the sewer system, and
okay,
so
I think that's actually the tagline for the movie. I think the tagline for the movie actually is "This time it's personal."
It is.
Anyway,
I think
and
so.
this one would actually be Jaws versus It battle royale
In the sewers.
in the sewers, obviously.
Okay. I mean, now I'm afraid to go anywhere near a sewer. Thanks, Becky.
Like,
I feel
sadly.
like that one actually makes sense. Like that makes sense.
Like in the Universal Monster Universe they're having, like that nobody asked for, Mothra.
Yeah.
All right, Candice.
Mine could 100% happen.
Do you have one?
Mine is so simple, but since you already spoiled it, so that lets me off the hook. The book, it also ends with the clown turning into a spider alien, and it's even more stupid, by the way, because it turns out in the book,
Really?
turns out this spider has had an eternal long feud with a turtle.
What?
Yeah, it's out of...
What kind of turtle? Like an alien turtle or just like an earth turtle?
It's some sort of weird, like, cosmic, in the galaxy, there's this turtle that's been around forever, and it's had this eternal long feud with the spider.
Are you the only person that's read the ending of this book?
I feel like
no one heard talk about this before.
I talked about it with a friend that read it, but he was like for the end.
You read the real version?
Yes.
You didn't it's not like some bootleg.
You didn't get fan fiction.
No. This was definitely the book. It was. I listened to the audiobook by Stephen King, voiced by Steven Weber.
Ooh, Steven Weber.
Yes.
Hilarious.
I know. I couldn't take it seriously.
They're just begging for it to be comedy horror at this point.
I know. I mean, not to... Steven Weber's a great actor, and he did great in the Shining miniseries, but I still can't take it seriously. Yeah. But anyway, this whole turtle ends up in the thing. That has nothing to do with what I want to do with this crossover. I just wanted to mention it because it makes me so upset. But I would cross over it and Coraline because Coraline already has experience.
You took a bridge too far in the scary zone.
But it worked out because Coraline knows how to defeat evil spiders, so she would be able to help these kids.
Yours makes the most sense.
I feel like you're the only one that really, like that makes sense.
That's written a TV show before.
Yeah, that's
one episode of TV.
Whatever. It's excellent and more than we can save ourselves. So amazing.
So
It's a great movie. Hopefully, I mean, Shai was saying that the sequel's coming out, right? Mm-hmm. And Jessica Chastain is in it. Perhaps am I making that up?
No. She is. She plays Beverly as an adult.
Shai was like, I hope they don't shit the bed on the sequel.
Yeah, I firmly believe they have to change the ending here.
I really hope they do.
No, this isn't one of those ones where people want to have it be true to the book. Like, the Game of Thrones fans better stay at home on this one and not get all whiny about the...
Well, I know people are already bent out of shape because in the book there's this... People call it the kid orgy scene. I call it the kid gangbang scene. And you can cut
that's in the book?
Too.
That was not in the TV special.
Nor should it be. They're 11 years old in the book, and it gets very gross and graphic.
What happens? Ew.
Wow. Yeah, they all take turns hooking up with Beverly in the book. And they've announced they're not going to do that in the movie, and people were very upset. I don't understand why.
That they didn't want to
those are the Game of Thrones fans. Yeah. The Game of Thrones fans are spoiled. So much child breastfeeding and incest on television the last few years. They thought this was finally their chance to get it.
I know, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to see that.
Blech. Oh, I believe I believe that Stephen King actually is in a Stephen King movie where there is a curse that he was being given the ability to come up with the scariest premises for books and movies, and then at the 75% mark, everything goes wrong. Because name a really good adaptation of a Stephen King movie, The Shining.
Except The Shining.
And Stand By Me.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Or is it Stand By Me or The Stand?
Well, I haven't seen The Stand, but that one's supposed to be
Stand
pretty
By
good
Me is Stephen King.
But
gotcha. Okay.
Stand By Me takes place in Derry. Where's Pennywise in that one? I always think about that. I'm always haunted by the fact that I'm like, so those kids are going on this little adventure, and they're probably going to get mauled by a clown when they get back.
Not if it's within the 27 years that he's dormant. They're fine.
Oh, okay. Oh, so there are some
The problem
rules.
is that they're both set in the 80s.
No,
I guess
no. The Stand By Me is in the 60s.
60s? Oh, okay. It's just made in the 80s. Okay, so then that makes sense. He's not awake yet.
Yeah. There you go. I'm glad we got to the bottom of this.
Kandice, are there any other awesome things that you just like that you would like recommend to people? We're gonna move on to our recommendations. Are there just things that you're into that you've been watching these days, or just favorite things of all time?
That's a good question. I really like Grace and Frankie on Netflix. Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda.
Great show.
But most importantly, June Diane Raphael. I feel like if I could edit out all of the old people stuff on that show and just watch the show about June Diane Raphael, I would really like it.
Shai's a super fan.
We just saw How Did This Get Made live. It was amazing.
I can see that.
Those guys.
I love so Jane Fonda throughout her career has always taken on a cause. That's like something she's known for. I love that Grace and Frankie specifically takes on ageism, because I feel like nobody really talks about that. And it's a very prevalent thing, especially in Hollywood, that really, really sucks. And I really admire her ability and the show's ability to take that head on and make it really funny.
Also, she, to really not be activist-like by saying this, she looks amazing for her age.
Yes, she does.
Like, she's 80.
Yeah, and I can't say that.
So she's also at the same time setting the bar a little too high.
She's very classy.
Yeah, but you know what?
That is a high bar to set.
She looks amazing, but I think that, and to Kandice's point, she and Lily Tomlin look amazing in their own different way. Like, they look different, but, like, they look age appropriate. Like, they're our parents' age. Or at least, I don't know how old your parents are, but they're around our parents' age or a little bit older. And they don't look younger than that. They just look healthy and good.
No, for sure. I'm just saying that Jane Fonda sets the bar high.
Oh no, I totally get what you're saying, and that
she has had
she's had some work done and things.
Right.
But
and Lily Tomlin, I don't think has work done, and she also looks incredible.
Yeah, she does.
And I would say, if people want to get work done, it's totally up to them.
Yeah.
I mean, you should get it done well so you don't look like a puppet, but, you know. Get Jane Fonda work, because she looks amazing.
I'm curious what you think then about the Kaminsky method, which is older actors, but mostly men.
I haven't seen it, but I know I'm intrigued.
Curious, because it's you definitely don't have protagonists that are in that age group on TV, but the older people in the show are mostly men. I think it's heartfelt and funny, regardless of that. I think, but it tells an interesting story. But I thought that's the only other show I could think of where there's older people as the main characters.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll have to check it out.
All right, that's very cool. That is a great endorsement of Grace and Frankie. Lily, what are you watching these days?
I just finished season 3 of Money Heist.
La Casa de Papel.
Casa de Papel, as people say around my
No spoileritos.
I will not do any spoilers, but I'm just saying that we have a thing, Kandice, on the show where we say showindipity.
Yes.
When a show, a season's released, or someone recommends you a show, or it's just meant to be. And literally season 3 could not have come at a more perfect time in my life. I needed it. And it did not disappoint, and you gotta just roll with that show for what it is. Shai tried to have like a slightly too intellectual conversation with me about it the other day, and I was like, nope, you just gotta go with it. Makes no sense, but it's awesome.
I just want to say, I'm 5 episodes in. No one has had sex inside a bank vault this season. So it strikes me that the show is trying to be more serious, and so I'm holding it to a higher standard.
Just hang in there.
Okay.
Fair points.
Do you watch that show, Candice?
No, but I'm, again, intrigued.
I mean, the first 2 seasons are like really, they were a part 1 and a part 2 made in Spain and distributed by Netflix. And it was just meant to be like a part 1 and a part 2, but it was so popular that then Netflix paid to do a season 3. And the first 2, it's a bit slow because it's like really you're watching as if it's one long season. So it is a bit slow. So you kind of just have to like bear with it a little bit at times, but it's worth it.
What's amazing about this show is that it is a true international sensation. I mean, I have met Israelis. I have met people from Tunisia.
India, right?
From India.
Mm-hmm.
Like people all over the world where like you ask them what show are you watching on Netflix and this is the show they're watching.
Like who's not going to have fun watching Spanish bank robbers? Like honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They find a way to always be in their underwear and their bra. Like they can say terrible things and it just like sounds like very sexy. It's a great show. So that is my endorsement. And I want to give a shout out to our great friend on Twitter, Gato, who recommended The Boys. I have to find a way to see this show because I don't think
I know. I haven't started it yet because I'm trying to finish Money Heist, but I want to see it.
But I appreciate him because I knew about it. I had like heard about it. But didn't get around to like putting it on a list of any sort, and then he reminded me that it exists, and it's Jack Quaid, Dennis Quaid, and Meg Ryan's son.
Oh, cool!
He's great.
Support Quaid and Ryan Offspring.
I heard he was
awesome.
in something. Yeah.
So shout out to Gato, and I also want to shout out to Ryan Walker from Beanstalk Library, the band. He was on our show a few weeks ago, and I just like. Well, and to you, Shai, because you introduced me to his music. And it's just like super fun rock music that has been... I normally don't drive where I live
I feel like you had some serendipity with the music. I feel like that's been a big one for you. That is
also, as well, you could say that. And I feel like I had to drive way more the last few weeks than I normally do. And it's just been great to crank those tunes in the car. So
awesome.
That's it for me.
I did it.
How about you, Beck?
I've been watching a few things. I'm really, really into the new season of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee on Netflix.
You're right. It's excellent.
They just released, and I do find this season is particularly well done. It's really great. Recommend that. And what's kind of funny, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I've been watching the new season of Queer Eye, but it could be just that I'm so used to the formula of the show. I don't find it as exciting this season, but I do find it very relaxing. So when I've been having a hard time sleeping at night, I put an episode on.
For me, that's like one of the highest compliments you can give to a show.
It's like, I feel like I'm snuggling up. I got my friends all around me, and they're telling funny stories until I fall asleep. It's been a really important one for me.
The Gilmore Girls got me through last night. I mean, and that show's wonderful.
I love that you're really into Gilmore Girls.
Oh yeah, the Gilmore Girls is if you. I think we follow each other on Instagram, right? My Gilmore Girls journey is being cataloged on my Instagram story. I'm very into it. I'm
sorry, Becky, I cut you off.
No. That was it. That's all I was going to say.
So
those are my two.
It's a great opportunity for me to talk about the Gilmore Girls, which is part of another bit we do, which is called a Tradesy. So I'm watching Gilmore Girls because someone I know watched Chuck for me, and so now Chuck went really quickly for this person, so I'm kind of behind. But there's also a lot of Gilmore Girls. Allie caught me watching like 4 episodes in a row the other day, and she's like, "How much more of the show is there?" I'm like, "I think 7 seasons," but I'm getting I'm getting more and more emotionally vested, and I think so. This is, and you all know I have struggled with Amy Sherman Palladino and Mrs. Maisel. I like Gilmore Girls a lot more than that show. One of the reasons why I really like it is I like the way the stakes for the characters have unfolded, particularly between the relationship between Lorelai and her mother, now that I'm deep into second season. And I feel like things notch up in a really neat pace, and it pays off as you get to know these characters. So so Gilmore Girls, it's working for me. I'd also like to shout out to, hold on, Ryan. So you mentioned Ryan, Lily. I got to see Beanstalk Library live at the Evening Star Cafe in Virginia, and
lucky you.
They were amazing. I mean, they blew the roof off the place. Like I saw many concerts in the last week. Some and a few of them were like full band concerts. And of the full bands I saw over 2 nights, I saw the Violent Femmes, and I saw Ben Folds, and I saw Beanstalk Library, and Beanstalk Library put on the best show of those 3 bands. And I'm not being hyperbolous because we know Ryan, like, it was a killer show. And one of the best parts of it is that they did Feeling My Way in the Dark, the song that I think has been your anthem lately, Lily, and that
It is, I love that song.
And that Ryan gave us permission to put on the show a couple weeks ago. And so they played it, and I'm like, yeah, awesome, grooving along. And then they jammed it out. They tacked on this jam at the end for an extra few minutes. So it was like an 8-minute version of that song. And I always feel like if you write a song that good, you should like just soak it up and help your crowd soak it up. And it was awesome. So those guys are killer. Yeah.
I hate to cut you off.
Your baby's awake.
My baby just woke up and I gotta go.
All right. Well, you're not that interested in my recommendations anyway.
No.
And
Thank you, Candice.
Thank you so much, Becky. It was nice meeting you.
Right. So nice meeting you. Bye. Oh, I guess I could stay on but mute myself.
Yes.
I just texted
in fact,
you
needed
guys.
to. You could have done all of that on mute, but that's cool.
Whatever.
Every time.
Someone needed to like give you an end point, Shy.
Thank you. Right. And so, and then the other thing I want to say is Josh, my best friend, my buddy, he gets an I Told You show. He's been talking me to listen to Bill Simmons' podcast, and to me that's like such an obvious thing. It's one of the, Bill Simmons is one of the biggest voices in pop culture stuff, but he really wanted me to listen to this interview of Kevin Costner, and Kevin Costner talks about his sports movies, and I reluctantly turned this on, and I could not stop listening to it. It was.
My God. Does he talk about Bull Durham extensively? Then I need to.
He talks about Bull Durham a lot.
He
talks actually the most of it is about.
Because that's the only good one he made, except for
Love of the Game.
No, nah.
For Love of the Game, I don't know. What he tells you about that movie is really cool. He tells some great stories, and he gives a shout out to Silverado, which is a big family.
You can steal of Dreams too.
Yeah, he talks a little about that too.
Yeah.
And then I just, because we have Candice on, and I'm thinking of cool, independent, funny things, I busted out and started watching again Eliza Sherman's Revenge. I love that movie. I'm obsessed with that movie. I think it is so funny, and Jackie Geary, who's in it, and the folks who worked on that, like, they were so generous to share that with us. And again, if anyone's listening and you would like to get a free viewing of it, because it's the only way you can view it, just tweet.
I feel like Candice will really like it.
Yeah, just tweet release Eliza to me, or to Friday Night Movie, or just send me a message if you don't use Twitter, and I will be happy with her permission, with the filmmaker's permission, with Greg Fitzsimmons' permission, who is the director and writer, and anyways, I want to share this movie with people because it just cracks me up.
I definitely think Candice will be on board.
I think you'll dig it. It's a supernatural revenge high school reunion movie that takes place in Richard Grieco's apartment.
I'm on board.
Right? Isn't that a great pitch?
Yeah.
I'm furious every day at Hulu or Netflix and Amazon that I have to watch some of the original films that they've put out, and this isn't picked up by one of those. So we are one by one spreading the gospel of it. Okay, with that, Candice, where can people follow you and anything else that you're working on?
They can follow me on Twitter at Kandice Mart, KandicemArt, and Instagram at Kandice_Martellaro _ Kandice.
There was another Kandice Martellaro.
Well, it was me, and then I accidentally deleted my own Instagram and had to make a
Amazing.
new. I don't know how I did it, but
that's
yeah.
a Lily move.
Amazing.
That's what we call being the Lily of our family.
Yeah. It was very upsetting. I was committed at one point to just not having Instagram anymore, and actually Dana Gould was the one that was like, no, you need to be on Instagram.
Social media.
Yeah, he was like, your career kind of needs it. So I hopped back on with a new thing. Anyway, so that's where they can find me.
And what about Fembot? Fembot.
I was going to say, Fembot is at Femmebot PhD, and you can find us on YouTube, Femmebot PhD. Please subscribe to our channel. All of our videos are up there, our live sketches, our videos, all of them.
Awesome. And you heard tons of recommendations, if you're listening, of the ones to start with, friends. Okay, and you can follow Becky at Paper BK Princess. She's now taking care of her child, but on Twitter, and I think that's about it where you can follow Becky. But if you tweeted her and she checks her Twitter, she's fun to tweet with.
I've been really checking my Twitter lately.
You've been all over it, Lil. I'm very proud of you. Where can people follow you?
I was inspired by Casa de Papel.
Yeah.
Because we have some serious other fans out
Becky
there.
and her baby.
Oh.
Becky just sent us a picture of her with her baby.
She's a very cute baby, as everyone who ever listened to this podcast knows. So people can follow me. Chi-Chi. People complain I say it too fast. Chi. K as in Kellogg's or Corman. Chi-Chi K Gomez. Not my last name. My husband's last name. On Twitter. Right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Chi-Chi
you did it. You did it right. You did it.
On the Twitter.
100%
That's
right.
it. And I'm tweeting lately, so just get on it. This is happening. I'm even putting GIFs/GIFs. I don't find there's an actual way to say that word. But I'm even learning. I find that the art
in
of
Spain,
that
aren't
on
they just
Twitter
called
is
chiefs?
amazing.
Aren't they just called
Probably.
chiefs in Spain?
Probably. But I just love how people communicate through them. And
They're like modern
I'm not
hieroglyphics.
saying. Yeah, they're one step past the emoji, and so I'm sort of getting into the language of them.
There's a lot of money heist ones, Lil.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
all right. Well, you can follow me at Pancake and the number 4 table on Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow all of the Friday Night Movie stuff at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram, and at FridayNightMoviePod.com. Lily and I run our Instagram, so you might get me, or Lily might randomly write back to you also. She won't realize that she's doing it, but that one's worth DMing just for that experience.
Yes.
And the music from What Does It Eat will kick in now, and we'll dance our way off into the evening. Kandice Martellaro, thank you so much for being a part of the Friday Night Movie family.
And
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me and watching all of our sketches and watching.
I wish I can't wait to see. I would love to see them live now for the nudity, for the poop jokes, for everything. I just feel like it's now you've made it seem so exciting. I never thought about. I mean, I've seen comedy sketch here in Spain, but it's really hard for me to take that leap for the language barrier.
Yeah, I can see that.
Comedy in another language is the hardest thing to get. And there's a bunch of different troupes that tour here and stuff, and it was very funny. The ones that they were very funny. The ones that I've seen, but other than that, I don't think I've ever seen comedy sketch live. And I've seen stand-up, but that's not the same. And so now, new mission amongst a lot of LA things now that we have to do. The next time I go with you and Beck is seeing you guys in person.
Wonderful. Well, we would love to have you.
Thanks.
Looking forward to it.
Bye.